our pumpkin. It's a little mini sign that you could put up for some fall decor. So what we're gonna do first, we'll paint our background, and then we'll paint our letters, and then we'll leave our pumpkin till last because we'll mix some colors, add some details. So I am basically just gonna keep it super simple. You could do whatever colors you'd like. I'm gonna do white on the background. I'm gonna do some black letters, and then an orange pumpkin, obviously. So the first step is we're gonna paint our background. Mine has I'm using a little scrap, so mine has paint on it already. Now I'm gonna do this white, and what I'm gonna do, you're gonna need to open your paints. You should have an extra white, you could just use that. And you're just gonna put 2 coats of white on your wood. You're going to do it on the front as well as the sides. So 2 coats, let it dry for a minute between the 2 coats. Of white on our background. I'm going to put that aside and I'm going to find my letters. Now you could do these any color that you want to match the interior of your house. I'm just going to do them black. So I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to dry my brush on a paper towel. Now you could either use your big or your small brush. I'm going to use my big brush and then use my small brush to get into all the little corners. So again with these, I'm going to put 2 coats of paint on them. So I'll work in rotation. You definitely need 2 coats because usually your first coat, you won't get everything. And I don't worry about doing the edges of these. The edges are dark already. If you're doing a light letter, you might want to do a light edge. So if you're painting your background like black, say, and your letter's white, you definitely want to do your edges. And you'll probably need multiple coats, not 2, if you're doing white. By the time you're finished with the H, you could pretty much go back and do your first letter again. Make sure you get all those spots. If your hands get a little messy, that's okay. And after I put my second coat, what I like to do is I'll take my small brush and any paint that's in like the corners, I try and brush away because that paint in the corners will really hold up our drying time. So because all this stuff should dry like in 15 minutes, but if you have like big chunks of paint, it's not going to dry that fast. So I'm just putting them aside once I scoop all the paint out from the corners. Some white on my hand. Alright, so I'm going to clean up my area a little bit and I'm going to open my yellow and my red paints because we're going to make some orange. Alright, for our next part we're going to need to make orange for our pumpkin. You could also make your pumpkin whatever color you'd like. If you have a plate or something to mix your paint, that'll be easier. I'm going to use this little cap. And to make orange, you're going to need more yellow than red. So I'm going to slowly add some red into this yellow, and you're gonna slowly add red until you get the color that you like. I think that's pretty good for me. Now if you have a paper plate or something, it's easier to do, put a little yellow on the plate and then put a little red into it. So I'm gonna put 2 coats on our little pumpkin. I'm using my bigger brush, and before I did my yellow, before I mixed my paints, I cleaned it. So do 1 coat, wait a hot second, and then you could kind of go back and do your second coat. And then while our orange is still wet, I'm going to take a little orange aside. I'm gonna put it right on my paper right here. And I wanna make a little brown because we're gonna add a little detail to our pumpkin. So usually you mix all the colors to make brown, but we're gonna cheat a little. We're just gonna put a little of my black, a tiny bit of black, into a little bit of orange. And you keep on adding tiny bits of black until you get a brown. That looks pretty good to me. All right, so now with that brown, I'm gonna take my little brush, and there's two little divots at the end of the pumpkin. I'm just gonna add a little detail, a little curved line on each of those sides. And I'm gonna wash my brush, wash my big brush. I did that with my little brush. I'm gonna wash my big brush, and then I'm just gonna put a little orange, and I'm gonna blend those lines into my pumpkin to give our pumpkin a little definition. You could also add a little on the edge and then blend with the big brush. That looks about good to me. And now you could have a choice. Either you could do the brown for the stem, or if you want, you can make a little blue. All you have to do is mix a little yellow, a little green. You mix a little yellow with a little blue, make some green. I like putting a green stem sometimes on it because there's not that much color in it. So I'm just going to make my little stem. And I'm also going to put some brown into my stem as well. So there we have our pumpkin done. Easy as that. So my letters are done, my pumpkin's done. The next thing I'm going to show you is an optional step. I'm going to dry brush a little bit of gray onto my background just so it's not so white. So what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to clean my space up, and I'm going to find my board and my black and white paint. Alright, so I have my board. It's mostly dry. There's a little wet spots, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush some gray in my background. So what I'm going to do, the first step is we need to make a little gray. I'm going to do it right on my paper here. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and slowly add some black. I'm only going to add that much black. Once I have my gray, I'm just going to wash my brush out. And I'm going to dry it really well because this is called dry brushing. You're supposed to have a dry brush. So I have mostly dry brush. I'm going to put a little bit of that gray paint on my brush, and then we're going to take some off. Put some on, take some off. And all I'm going to do is on the background, I'm going to go left to right and add some streaks. If you run out of paint, just get some more, take some off. Really lightly. If you make a mistake and do like too much of a streak, it's fine because all you have to do is take some white paint and go over it. So I'm just putting some streaks so it isn't so white. You could do this with any color too. I like to put a lot on the edge. I think that looks good to me. So if you do mess up and you just take a little white and you could brush some white on top of it, and when it dries it all evens out. So I'm going to let all this dry for about 15 minutes. I'm going to have my letters. And then we're going to come back and we're just going to glue it. To glue it, you're going to need some plain old Elmer's glue or wood glue, anything that dries clear. My pieces are dry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay them out on the board how I like them. Make sure everything's straight, everything's looking good. So then once I have all my pieces laid out, you are going to take some glue. I'm using this is a wood glue, but it's like Elmer's. It dries clear. That's probably the most important thing. And when we glue, we want a little bit, goes a long way. I'll start with my H. I'm going to put some glue on it. And just so it doesn't get gloopy when I put it down, I'm going to use a paper towel, and I'm just going to put my letter on the paper towel to take off some of that glue, and then I'll put the H down. And I'm going to do that to all the pieces. Glue, dab on the board. Glue, dab on the board. Glue, dab on the board. And most glues you'll have a little bit if you need to rearrange things. Scooch it a little. And that looks beautiful. When this dries, you could hang it wherever you like. But I hope you guys had fun painting with me and have a great fall.